Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we are going to consider the syntactical relationships between words in context with a special focus on a perfect participle in the context of John 1 verse 6. Our text for this lesson comes out of the book of John. John 1 verse 6 reads, Egeneto anthropos apistalmenos para theo Onoma after Johannes. Translation: There was a man sent from God whose name was John, or alternatively his name was John. Let us now consider the syntactical relationships in this text. As usual, we begin with the main clause, which is egeneto anthropos, there was a man or a man came. Before we continue, I want to draw your attention to the main verb egeneto. In this context, it stresses the entrance into a state, so it probably is functioning as an ingressive aorist, i.e. pointing to he came. The main clause is then further developed by an unauthorized participle phrase consisting of a participle apistalmenos, which tells us which man it is that is in focus. It is the sent one. A prepositional phrase para theo, which gives us the ultimate agent who did the sending, which is God, right? And in addition to that, we have an explanatory clause, onoma after Johannes, which tells us what this man's name was. As you know, an unauthorized participle can either function adjectivally or it can be adverbially. The form itself tells us nothing. So with no article present, context is our main clue as to the function of our participle. Although, as you have learned, the verbal aspect in an adjectival participle is not entirely diminished, I think it is clear to us all that in this context, our participle apistalmenos is mainly attributing something to the noun anthropos. In fact, our participle apistalmenos with its modifiers is forming an adjectival clause, and this entire adjectival clause is primarily modifying the noun anthropos. Thus, since it is attributing something to a noun, it is safe to classify our perfect participle apistalmenos here as an adjectival participle and not an adverbial participle. Something else of exegetical significance is that the nominative neuter noun onoma in this context is functioning as a parenthetic nominative. A parenthetic nominative, according to Dr. Wallace, is a noun which functions as a subject of an explanatory clause within another clause. Just to be clear, it is a subject in this context of the implied equator verb ein, which is, it's not stated, it is implied. The dative of to, on its part, is functioning as a dative of possession, modifying the noun onoma. We are used to a genitive fulfilling this role, so I'm sure that a question that you have is, how do we know when a dative is functioning as a dative of possession then? Dr. Wallace gives us a very easy key to recognize a dative of possession. He says that if you can replace the usual to that you will translate a dative with belonging to, as in this case, there is a great probability that you are dealing with a dative of possession. In summary, I want us to recap by going over some of the main points pertaining to perfect participles and participles in the broader sense. The first point is, remember, like in the indicative mood, perfect participles do not have tense formative or connecting vowels. Secondly, as verbal adjectives, they have the characteristics of both verbs and adjectives. Thirdly, as an attributive adjective, it agrees with the word it modifies in case, number, and gender, as we saw in our example, apistaumenos agreeing with anthropos in case, number, and gender. And then lastly, vocalic reduplication is retained in perfect participles. It looks exactly the same as an augment, but it's not an augment. And that is so because participles do not indicate absolute time, so it doesn't have an augment. So we call that vocalic reduplication.